Yeah, so like Shida, we're still missing an adjudicator. Should we proceed?
Are they be able to be contacted or not?
Trying to do that. I'm not sure. Okay, let me do that one more time. Okay, so I'm just trying to receive confirmation from the CAP if we should move on without the adjudicator that is absent. Just a minute, everyone. Okay, so apologies, everyone. I think we have to wait for, let's say, a minute. The organizing committee are trying to reach out to the missing adjudicator. Um, I'm not sure if I think you can just stop the recording for now, so that yeah, like, you don't like so that it doesn't just it isn't just empty at the beginning. I don't know because I think we have to wait.
It's okay. I'll just crop the recording later on. Thank you.
Okay, that's nice. Um, Hello, Salim, are you here?
Yep, Salim is here. I'm sorry for the delay.
Okay. Okay, so Salim, please, could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Salim and I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you, Salim. So, apologies for the delay, everyone. I guess we can now begin the round proper. So, I would just like to call on the first prop speaker to begin their speech.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Um, I think my teammate has mentioned this in chat, but once again, my pronouns are he, him. I would like my POIs verbally, not in chat. Yeah, I'll just get my timer out and start it up, and I will begin shortly. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, a society that abandons cash abandons its people. When you rip away the only payment method that millions rely on, you're not creating progress. Instead, you're creating victims. Today, the proposition stands firm. We will not allow a future where the vulnerable are left behind in the name of convenience. Good afternoon, my name is Daniel. As the first speaker of the government team, I'll be setting up my team's case for today's debate, introducing a rebuttal, and introducing the first argument of my team. So let's get started with setup. Firstly, characterization. What does an active push look like? This looks like governments, banks, corporations incentivizing the public to go cashless. It looks like policies to phase out cash, and it also looks like a quick transition, not a gradual policy for like the next 20 years. Secondly, a cashless society. It looks like a society where all payments are digital. It's also a society which is dependent heavily on access to technology, and it's a society that will exclude groups without the access. We believe that this push is harmful. We are not anti-technology. We are anti-forcing a transition that hurts vulnerable groups, increases risk, and weakens resilience. So in status quo, society is a mix of cash and cashless. By transitioning to cashless, we supposedly achieve faster transactions and easier money tracking. But at the same time, millions don't have access to the internet. Therefore, a cashless society would greatly harm them. Therefore, my team stance is to support a cash-based society with balance instead of pushing for cashless. The two main stakeholders in today's debate are firstly the minorities as well as elderly. These people are not technologically savvy and they don't often have access to technology. They're also at risk of losing their money if we transition to this cashless society. Second stakeholder are the average or normal citizens. They will lose their freedom or privacy and will become extremely dependent on corporations. My team's burden today is to show you that keeping cash widely available is highly necessary for equality,
POI.
resilience, rejected after case, and freedom, and that a cashless only future is dangerous. The opposition, however, must prove to you that aggressively pushing cashless is better for society and that cash is outdated or necessary. Yes, I'll take that POI now.
Yes. So, payment apps are a very easy to grasp system. So, can't older people easily grasp that by because already they are able to pay for it with using payment apps. So, what do you have to say about that?
Payment apps? Okay, I'd like to remind you that most elderly people are not technologically savvy. You can't expect a 80-year-old person that has barely used technology in their life to simply just transition to a cashless society just like that. I'll expand on that later. Moving on to a rebuttal, it's likely that the opposition team may talk about how the majority outweighs the minority, that you cannot hold back society for a small group of people. But bear in mind that the role of the government is to serve and protect the interests of the people, even the most vulnerable and pitiful members of society. So if a government pushes for a policy that hurts these vulnerable minorities, that is not called progress. That is called systemic harm and active exclusion. So that brings us to my first argument about financial inclusion. I have three layers of analysis for this claim. Firstly, is because the elderly will be left behind. This addresses your rebuttal as well. You see, many older citizens, they lack smartphones or they struggle with e-wallet systems. So when shops and services stop taking cash, they can't pay for their food, their transport, or their medicine. Second layer of analysis. You see, the poor and unbanked get excluded. Millions of people don't have access to bank accounts. They rely on cash wages to survive and pay their bills. Thirdly, rural minorities don't have access. They don't have access to technology, so cashless is almost impossible for them. Families in these regions, they depend on cash to keep their local economies alive. Now, know that obviously the government isn't going to flip the whole society overnight, but regardless of the fact, people cannot just adapt to a system in time. Just like in the POI, an elderly 75-year-old person cannot just become tech savvy overnight, and rural communities without internet access cannot go cashless until internet is given to them. Next, impacts. Firstly, on the elderly people. When cash is removed, people who struggle with smartphones will be immediately excluded. This means they lose their independence. They end up having to put heavy stress and reliance on their children, strangers, or even government help. Second, the minorities or poor people, they end up getting pushed out of the economy altogether, and they cannot get paid in cash, they can't pay rent, they cannot survive. Thirdly, the average people, the average Joes like you and I, we end up getting left dependent on a digital system, something that's extremely fragile to cyber attacks and system glitches. We lose our cash security. Finally, let's end this off with a comparative. In our world, everyone, regardless of their age, class, or technological access, has at least one guaranteed way to survive: cash. In the opposition world, cashless, the weak get excluded forever. Even the strong are vulnerable to system failures. A society that abandons cash abandons its people. That's why I've never been prouder to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Prop One, for that speech. We will now move to the first up speaker to open up the case for side opposition.
Yes. Am I visible and audible for this?
Yes, you're.
Okay. So I'm gonna start my speech on the backward count of 3, 2, 1. Greetings to the House at large. Today I open the opposition side of this debate by disagreeing with the motion at hand. So first of all, what do we think when we are talking about a cashless society? Well, a cashless society is one where transactions are mainly conducted through digital methods such as cards, mobile wallets, or online transfers. The word mainly means that cash can still be used as an emergency resource, just not on a day-to-day basis or as often as we use it currently. So now a few things in my debate. I just said the definition. After this, I'm going to move on to rebuttals. A model we will propose if the motion is in favor of our side of the house, and my arguments. So some rebuttals. They said it has a big impact for elderly. Then okay, the first prop argument was based on impact for the elderly, right? So I would like to show some impacts for the elderly that they have on their side of the house, which they didn't consider. The elderly cannot adapt, they're right, but just like in the COVID times, our families helped our grandparents learn, my grandmother included. They helped with smartwatch, online calls during COVID. That's how we could keep in touch. The same happens with digital payments. Humans are born to adapt to changing scenarios. Just like that, we will adapt, just like we've been doing. And second, elderlies are the prime targets for cash theft, scams, and robberies. Why? Because they're not very active.
POI, miss.
They are not very active. They cannot, how do you put it? They can't take care of their money. So instead of handing them large sums of cash to carry around, wouldn't it be just safer to give them a phone or one device in which they can have digital payments? Yes, what's the POI?
Okay, when you said that it's safer to put your money into a cashless app rather than having it around, then what do you explain about hackers that hack for the elderly? I don't get what you're saying. Please clarify. Thank you.
Yes, so the hackers, this entire argument is for my second speaker speech, so he will elaborate, but I'll just address a little bit. So hackers, yes, they do hack, but then also in digital modes, you can trace back your phones, you can trace back bank accounts. When a sum of money in cash is stolen, there's no trace to track it back. Now, so a model that we propose, if the motion is on our side of the house, in a cashless society, we will promote digital literacy campaigns in villages, local community centers, and schools. Programs like the Digital India Initiative will subsidize the cost of devices for low-income families and individuals below the poverty line. 3. The government committee for already existing staff will be on helpline to assist elderly with online transactions from time to time basis, and people will still be permitted to keep a certain amount of cash at home for emergencies. Now, moving on to my argument, the environmental benefits of a cashless society. Till now, we've only thought about the finance part, but let's talk about the rest of the world too. So, what does this mean? A cashless society reduces the massive environmental footprint of printing, transporting, the metal, the extractions we make from environmental resources, of maintaining physical currency. Now, why will this reduce? Well, the cash system requires paper from trees, metals from mining, ink. ATM machines to be built, and constant replacement of worn out notes. Digital payment instead run on data networks that already exist. And these systems are becoming greener every day. The US prints billions of notes annually, and that's also just a speculation, using enormous amounts of water, ink, metal, coins that involve destructive mining. Data centers scale more efficiently. The impact on our side of the house is that it will reduce deforestation, mining damage, carbon emissions, and cuts hidden costs like ATM energy usage and metal mining. This aligns with the climate goals of the future, which a world like ours aims for. Also, the other side may argue that even the data structures needed or data and network services needed have a carbon footprint. Yes, they do, but digital infrastructure is rapidly evolving. It is becoming improvable, it is becoming more green, renewable things are being used. But you can never have a different method of printing cash. My second speaker will now extend our case by pivoting and give you an insight to smooth access and prevention of theft, and extend on my points. But that's it for now. Proud to oppose.
Thank you. First up, we will now move to the second prop speaker to advance the case for side proposition.
Okay, I will be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, the opposition wants you to believe that going cashless is harmless, even inevitable. But every step towards a fully cashless world is a step towards surveillance, exclusion, and control. We are here to remind you, real progress is about freedom and choice, not forcing everyone into a digital cage. In my speech today as the second speaker, I will extend the case set up by my Prime Minister, provide additional arguments, rebut the opposition, and give comparatives. The government whip will later strengthen our case and prove why we should win. Before I begin, I'd like to remind the judges that our burden is to prove that an active push to phase out cash and force everyone into a fully cashless system creates more harm than good. Now moving on to my first argument, digital fragility. A fully cashless society makes the economy entirely dependent on fragile technological infrastructure, banking apps, servers, internet, and power grids, creating a single point of failure. Any outage, cyber attack, or system malfunction can paralyze the entire economy. In a mixed system, people can fall back on cash. In a cashless system, they are stranded.
Why?
Rejected. We have seen this worldwide. India's UPI network has suffered nationwide outages, leaving millions unable to buy essentials, and even the UK has experienced major banking app shutdowns. The impact is severe. Small businesses cannot sell, citizens cannot access food or transport, and governments face anger and loss of credibility. Even if digital systems are efficient most of the time, one major failure can bring the economy to its knees. A resilient society needs cash as a backup, and the active push to remove it is reckless. Second, it erodes privacy and autonomy. In a cashless society, every transaction is tracked by banks, corporations, and governments. While this may help fight money laundering, it destroys financial privacy, leaving citizens with a permanent data trail. This is not theoretical. In China, Alipay and WeChat Pay feed into the state's social credit system, enabling surveillance and control. Even in democracies, banks increasingly monitor and report transactions. And a fully cashless system would massively expand this power. The impact is severe. Marginalized groups like political dissidents, migrant workers, and abuse victims lose the ability to transact privately, while governments gain disproportionate control. Privacy is a prerequisite for a functioning democracy, and forcing a cashless society erodes it permanently. Now let's engage with the opposition. The opposition claims that cash can still be used when needed. This ignores the motion's focus, an active push to phase out cash. It is not about an optional convenience. It is about the government forcing a transition that pressures everyone to go digital. They argue that the elderly can adapt, citing the MCO because humans are born to adapt. But adaptation is not the same as convenience or fairness. Forcing vulnerable groups like the elderly or low-income citizens to rely solely on technology creates real hardship and exclusion. On the safety point, the opposition suggests online payments are inherently safer than cash. Yet they ignore the digital systems are vulnerable to outages, hacks, and fraud. While they claim stolen funds can be traced and recovered, in practice, this is slow, stressful, and unreliable, leaving people without access to their money when they need it most. Finally, they argue that cash harms the environment. Rejected. But the environmental cost of servers, data centers, and constant electricity consumption for a fully digital system is significant and ongoing. So how do the worlds compare? In the opposition's world, a fully cashless society serves the privileged with convenience, while millions are excluded. Systems are dangerously fragile and privacy disappears. In our world, we keep a mixed economy. Digital payments still flourish, but cash remains as a resilient safeguard for those who need it. Rejected. Ours is the world. the world that balances innovation with resilience. They have gambled the stability of the entire society for the sake of convenience for the few. The key question in this debate is clear. Does the active push help more people than it harms? We show it harms millions of people while only benefiting the already privileged. The opposition asks you to gamble with people's lives, livelihoods, and freedom for the sake of convenience. We refuse that gamble. A society that protects the vulnerable, preserves choice, and stays resilient is not only smarter, it is moral. And that is the work the government stands for. This is why we win. Thank you.
Thank you, second prof, for that speech. Before we move to the next speaker, just a couple of reminders. First, POIs cannot be offered in the first and last minutes of a speaker's speech, so take note of that. Secondly, please make sure like I said, make sure you have a timer beside you so that you can keep track of your own time. So thank you, Prop 2, once again. So we're moving to the second up speaker to continue the case for side opposition.
Can I have some seconds to set up my stopwatch?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. I will let's start on the reverse countdown of 3, 2, 1. Start. Honorable Chair, esteemed judges, and worthy opponents, good afternoon. Today, as the second speaker for the opposition, I will be reinforcing our stance that societies should actively push towards going cashless. I will focus on two crucial advantages: convenience and speed, and the reduction of crime and theft. First, on convenience and speed. The heart of every economic transaction is efficiency. Cashless systems give us exactly that. Imagine the difference between digging through your wallet for loose change versus a quick tap on your phone. Digital payments cut down the friction in day-to-day life. This doesn't just apply to individuals. Businesses also benefit. Faster transactions mean shorter queues, more customers served, and more time saved. Let's not forget about reach. A cashless society allows people to pay or receive money instantly across borders at any time of day. In emergencies, this convenience is life-changing. Someone can transfer funds to a family member in need within seconds. By actively pushing towards cashlessness, governments and institutions help make this ease of living the norm rather than a luxury for the elite. It is an easy-to-grab system as it only involves scanning a QR code and entering the amount you need to pay. Thus, even old people who are not technologically savvy can master it easily. Second, on decreased crime and declined. When money moves digitally, the physical incentive for many crimes shrinks dramatically. Petty theft, armed robberies, and cash heists lose their appeal if there is no cash to steal. Similarly, counterfeit currency becomes irrelevant in a world where digital transactions dominate. But beyond street level crime, there's another layer: accountability. Cash leaves no trail. Digital transactions always do. This means that if we actively push towards a cashless society, illegal cash-based markets find it harder to decline. Whether it's unreported income, tax evasion, or money laundering, the digital footprint makes crime riskier for criminals and law enforcement stronger. By pushing actively towards cashlessness, governments don't just modernize payments, they actively protect citizens from both everyday theft and organized financial crime. To conclude, a cashless society means smoother and faster lives for individuals and businesses alike, and it also means a safer society where crime has fewer hiding places. This debate isn't about imagining a distant utopia. It's about recognizing the tools we already have and choosing to expand their use. By proposing an active push to cashless society, we're not leaving it to chance. We're ensuring that the benefits of speed, convenience, and safety reach everyone. And for these reasons, we on the opposition team firmly believe that society should embrace and actively push towards becoming cashless. Thank you.
Thank you, second up, for that speech. We will now move to the whip of side prop to summarize the case for side proposition.
Okay, I'll be starting with that. Let me just get my timer right here. And something in 3, 2, 1. Okay, judges, let's get one thing straight. The opposition came here unprepared. They wanted to sell you this shiny fantasy that cashless society means no scams and ultimate convenience. But did they forget hackers exist? Did they forget elderly people struggling to pay for food while their e-wallet crashes? This isn't a utopia that they claim they are. This is them burying the vulnerable while pretending they care. Now I want to review my team's case. Our case has been clear from the start. This hurts the vulnerable. We're talking about elderly people, low-income earners, rural
Voice
folks
is very
without
laggy.
stable,
Voice is very
without
laggy.
stable internet. Please stop measuring my speech. The ops idea of a cashless paradise erases that. They're saying, don't worry, the elderly will adapt. Judges, adapting is not clear magic. These are people who can't even navigate apps, and now their access to basic necessities is tied to a phone battery. That's oppression just not as innovation, Mr. Speaker. And we've also seen that, and we've also told you that privacy and freedom. Cashless means every transaction is traceable, monitored, and stored. That's not progress, that's surveillance. If every dollar you spend is locked, that's a dangerous level of control governments and corporations can exploit. May I remind you, we're not fear-mongering. We know we're being realistic, the only realistic side. Cash is not just paper, it's freedom, it's autonomy. Now, I'd like to provide my rebuttals. You say that scams will go down. Really? Scams don't disappear overnight. They evolve. Hackers steal billions digitally every year, far more than physical theft. Opposition solution hands hackers one central network to exploit by giving them free chocolate and candy. They've made it easier for criminals, not harder. They say convenience. For who? Urban elites with iPhones and stable internet, for rural people, the elderly, or someone whose phone just died at the grocery shop. Cashless humiliation, not convenience. They've created a world with unique tech literacy to survive. Us, we are using cash to promote a cash society so that everyone can live in peace, not in worry. And they also say that elderly can adapt. No, that's privilege speaking. Not everyone can afford new tech. Not everyone can master it. May I remind you, even my own grandmother can't even master it in 2 days. May I remind you, and pushing them to do is so cruel. It's cruel. It catches society as is excluded by side. And before I move on to my question analysis, may I ask for side opposition, do you have any POIs to ask? No? Okay, I'll be moving. Now, this debate boils down to progress
POI?
versus action. No, sorry. I give you time and you did it. Opposition is starting flashy progress that works only for a small group while sacrificing privacy, safety, and inclusivity. We are offering a balanced society where digital payments grow without erasing cash, protecting everyone's ability to live freely and securely. We win on the clash of equity. They're designing a system that punishes those who are already disadvantaged. We win on safety. Hackers and system failures are far more devastating than the theft. And we win on freedom. Privacy is a right, not a privilege. Cash is a safeguard against total control. I remind you, Mr. Speaker. Judges, this is, at the end of the day, this isn't about resisting technology. It's about resisting a future where freedom and security are luxuries. Opposition's vision is exclusionary, dangerous, and naive. And we're not saying no to innovation. We're saying yes to a future that works for everyone. That's why this house proudly opposes the reckless push towards a cashless society. Thank you.
Thank you, Prop Whip. Up Whip, you're up.
Just a second, let me get that's fine. Just a second. Okay. I'll start my speech in the backward count of 3, 2, 1. Good morning to the House at large. My name is Divyansh, and I'm the third speaker of opposition. We strongly disagree with the motion that this House opposes a transaction to a cashless society. The first clash is that the proposition thinks that hackers can steal data, money, etc. from naive individuals. But what they fail to realize is that apps like Google Pay, Paytm, and Tabby all have firewalls and safeguards to prevent this from happening. Also, because everything is noted, just like pointed out by the third speaker, uh, everything is noted, nothing on the internet is truly deleted. We can easily find out who did the cybercrime, and based on the IP, we can track them down as well. Also, isn't it just more convenient? These apps allow you to pay for everything on a phone instead of carrying around cash and flimsy credit cards, which can get lost in sewer drains and minimal spaces. The second class rejected. The second clash is that even if you lose your phone, most payment apps have passcodes and verification. So even if it gets stolen, the criminal cannot access the payment account. Also, if you lose your phone, you can either track it using IP address, and you can also log back into your account and access all the money without any stress. Whereas when you lose your wallet, you lose hundreds accepted.
Okay, when you said that if we lose our wallet, we lose all our money. So if I lose my phone, I also lose everything inside. Because as we can see, not all our phones can be found, right? So please, I want to know your
Yes, actually, phones can be tracked easily by again IP address, and nowadays iPhones even have the mode where even if they're powered off, you can still track them. So yeah, that completely remove your POI. Also, whereas when you lose your wallet, you lose hundreds and hundreds worth of cash, not able to get any of that back. With these payments, you can easily get money back without having to worry about it being stolen, because A, you can log back into your account, and B, you don't have to lose any money due to the authentication apps. The third clash is just efficient. In history, we first used to trade by exchanging gold and other metals for cattle, food, and vice versa, without a fixed rate. Then we made money and currency to have a fixed rate of everything and for convenience. What's the problem with that? Well, it had risks of being stolen, you forgetting your wallet, and going through small spaces and getting lost. Now we have evolved further, and all of this cash, all of your wealth in that one widget app. Even if a pickpocketer steals your phone, you can always track it and find it, and also access the bank account. The proposition wants to evolve, but they just want to evolve backwards. Also, for the first speaker, cash is not only the only payment mode. There are also credit cards, which is somewhat similar to payment apps. A credit card makes payment easier with a PIN code for security. Payment apps are very similar, and credit cards are widely accepted as well, even in developing countries. This obviously won't happen. This policy obviously won't happen overnight, and most of the population also has a phone. Also, the elderly can easily grasp payment apps because you can't. You just have to scan a QR code. Many elderlies use credit cards already, and this again is very similar to this technology. For the second speaker, she says that things like authenticator apps and servers are fragile. They can easily get disrupted. This is entirely false. There are many backup servers all around the world. So if a banking app shuts down, which is unlikely, they can come back online with these backup servers. So what do you mean? Also, what do you mean by the term mixed economy? You've been mentioning the term countless of times without any explanation. It is not a word. Also, even if a shutdown happens on an app, an app can easily cut back in hours. Also, police can easily find out malicious action by tracking criminals' payments. This was said by my second speaker. For the third speaker, if every payment is traceable, isn't that a good thing to catch criminals? If a person buys drugs, police can easily get evidence to catch the person. Also, who would pinpoint a single purchase of a person and then use that against them? Elderly can also find out how to use payment apps. If they can use phones, can't they also use payment apps? Now to summarize my team's case, payment apps are not only convenient but also secure. There's reduction of crime, theft, and it's an easy to grasp system. You just have to scan the QR code and boom, you just pay. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Upwhip. So that brings us to the end of the substantive speeches. We will now be moving to the replies. Up reply, you can start. Up reply, are you there? I think there should be.
So our teammate is facing some internet issues. Please give him a second.
Okay.
Talking.
Okay, he's back online.
Up reply. Are you there?
Could I have 2 minutes?
Could you have what?
So he was facing internet issues.
Oh, okay. Up reply. If you're here, you can start your speech. Up reply. Are you still here? Side up. Is the reply speaker still here?
So he just come in 1 minute. Sorry, 1 minute. He has some internet issues.
Okay.
Let you speak after this.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So let's start.
You can start now.
Okay, I would like to start. Am I clearly visible and audible?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so sorry for the delay. I had a bit of an internet issue. I would like to start on the reverse countdown of 3, 2, 1. Go. Honorable Chair, esteemed judges, and worthy opponents, good afternoon. I appreciate the points raised by the proposition. Raised by the proposition how if banking has a shutdown, it would cause a huge problem for society. Older people, that is the elderly, are not enough technologically savvy to use such banking app. However, I would like to create clashes between these points and the points raised by our team, which are regarding convenience, speed, and crime reduction and environmental damage in a cashless society. However, I also want to highlight a critical aspect that they have overlooked: the environmental damage caused by the push towards a world with cash. While digital payments seem fast and efficient, the infrastructure behind them comes at no cost. However, the infrastructure behind cash payments has a huge environmental cost because what is money made from? Paper, and paper comes from trees. So for every paper bill that you pay your groceries with, at least 10 or 20 trees are cut. Data centers powering cashless transactions don't consume much many amounts of electricity because compared to the environmental impact by cash, which is like cutting of trees, deforestation, leading to the greenhouse gas effect, digital payments are much more environmentally better. So, in conclusion, convenience and crime reduction are extremely important. Um, but cash payments are the hidden evil. They have so many environmental costs. They create deforestation, increase greenhouse gases. Plus, in a world where cash is the main form of payment,
It's
people
time.
are not safe. If their wallet is stolen, they lose most of their money. Thank you. And with this, I would like to say that a cashless society should be actively pushed towards.
Time up. Thank you, Up Reply. Sorry for interrupting your speech. Your time was up. Up Reply, you can start.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right, I will get on my timer and I will be starting soon. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon. As the reply speaker of government, I'll be proving to you today why my team wins this debate by weighing out the main teams that have been presented before you today. So before I get to the clash, I'd like to address the opposition reply's claim about environmental damage. You see, this was already addressed by the second proposition speaker. You see, data centers that you are proposing for cashless payments are way worse than printing cash because data centers, they need servers, they need cooling, they need electricity 24/7, whereas cash notes, they can last years. Coins, it can last decades. Data centers need constant fixing and replacement. This means tons of e-waste. Ultimately, a cashless society will create even more environmental damage instead of cash. So let's break the clash today. It's about the benefits for society. We believe that a cash-based society gives you security and promotes inclusion, whereas our opponents believe that a cashless society provides security and so-called convenience. Let's break this clash by weighing it out on 3 different fronts. Firstly, magnitude. Our claim is more impactful because we are able to provide a reliable backup and security in times of need. We get to promote inclusivity for even the most vulnerable groups of society, unlike the opposition, which just pretty much ignores them entirely. Whereas on their side, you get supposed convenience and security, but this is only available for those with internet access. That's just systemic harm. And besides, the security part isn't even guaranteed either. Crime will ultimately always exist, and petty theft will simply be replaced by digital hacking and scams. Next, scale. We get to impact our stakeholders on a deeper level because we fight and uphold the minorities. We fight for the elderly and the poorest individuals in society. We give them security and comfort through cash. Okay, on the opposition side, you may have slightly more convenience and benefits, but it's only for people who can afford this connection. This is not available for the poor, for the minorities that we have spent the entire debate talking about. Finally, probability. It's ultimately more likely that we can help society because we are using an age-old reliable method that is universally accepted and trusted by everyone. Cash. It's less likely that our opponents can help society as a whole because they cannot benefit everyone. They only benefit those with resources and they leave whole groups behind in the so-called race for progress. Ultimately, our side is providing you a world of freedom and security, whereas the opposition, it provides you a world of extra convenience and shaky security to those with resources at the cost of the minorities in society. And that's why I've never been prouder to propose. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Prop Reply. And that brings us to the overall end of the debate. Thank you so much, everyone, for what has been a fantastic round. So the judges and I are just going to deliberate so that we can come up with the results. As you all know, the announcements will be made at the breaks, so you can all just move back to the main room so that you can excuse the judges and I so that we can have our discussion. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So please, can you all just move back to the main room so that you can excuse the judges and I?